Happy birthday to me.
SHAWNTAI Adkins spent her career saving people who were fighting for their lives.
Excuse me, can you record me real quick? Can you record me real quick?
Get somebody else to do it.
It's for audition.
She had this incredible gift for bringing hope to families facing their darkest hours. Cancer patients would light up when they saw her walking through the hospital doors because they knew someone who genuinely cared was about to take care of them.
And let me just say this. When it comes to giving a fuck, I don't have any. And I don't. Damn sure don't.
But when she needed someone to save her, the very act of asking for help sealed her fate. This is about a woman whose kindness couldn't protect her from the monster she married.
Big bro. Family. Hey. We live. We out here. Happy birthday. We out here. Happy birthday to my pops too. I'll be riding that later, pops. We out here. What we doing?
Celebrate.
Can I get a Go Gators from everybody? No Go Gators? Okay. Y'all all kicked out my street. You nasty. Oh, she nasty. That's my wife though. I married her. No call. Never mind. We out here. Oh, you want to get back in it? Go ahead then.
Tonight we're examining a phone call that was supposed to rescue a loving daughter, but instead became the moment her parents watched her die. Two people who thought they were driving over to help their child leave a dangerous marriage became eyewitnesses to her execution. This isn't about strangers. This is about parents who heard terror in their daughter's voice and did exactly what any loving parent would do. They dropped everything and raced to help her. They thought they were coming to save her life. They had no idea they were about to witness something that would destroy them emotionally forever. What makes this case so heartbreaking is how quickly love turned into horror. We're talking about minutes between a desperate call for help and a crime scene so devastating that first responders still talk about it. This is about trust, about marriage vows, about parents who tried to do the right thing, and about how the people closest to us can become our greatest threat.
The person playing this really loud across the room really wants you to know that they want to do the nasty, but they don't know if you're in the mood. But if you are in the mood, please give them a thumbs up right now.
34-year-old SHAWNTAI Adkins wasn't just any registered nurse. She was the caregiver who remembered your birthday, who held your hand during chemotherapy, who somehow found exactly the right words when there weren't any right words to say. She worked at Florida Cancer Specialists in Daytona Beach. Cancer patients didn't just trust her with their medical care. They trusted her with their deepest fears, their fragile hopes, their most vulnerable moments. Colleagues would tell you that SHAWNTAI possessed this rare gift for making people feel truly seen during the most terrifying chapters of their lives. She wasn't just administering treatments. She was providing something far more precious, genuine human connection when people needed it most desperately. This extraordinary caring nature wasn't something SHAWNTAI reserved for her professional life. She brought that same healing energy home to her role as a mother, as a daughter, as the person everyone in her family turned to when life became overwhelming. Her parents didn't just love her, they were completely devoted to her. She wasn't simply their daughter, she was their pride and joy, the person who brought infectious laughter and warmth to every family gathering. To anyone observing from the outside, SHAWNTAI appeared to have built something genuinely beautiful with her husband, 35-year-old SHAWNTAI Adkins. They seemed authentically connected, the kind of couple that made other people believe in real love. SHAWNTAI had established himself as a school administrator in Volusia County, presenting himself as a decent man who had his life together. Neighbors knew him as friendly and approachable, someone who would wave hello and seemed like pleasant company. Together, they had created a life in a peaceful neighborhood where people knew each other's names and felt secure letting their children play outside until dark. From every external perspective, SHAWNTAI and Chantel appeared to be building something solid, a partnership founded on shared dreams and mutual support. SHAWNTAI had also embraced the role of mother figure with children in their blended family, approaching parenting with the same patience and dedication she brought to nursing. She understood intuitively that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for someone is simply be present when they need you most. What made SHAWNTAI truly exceptional was her core belief in caring for others.
Let me just say this. When it comes to giving a fuck, I don't have any.
Whether she was comforting a terrified cancer patient facing their first chemotherapy session, guiding a child through a difficult emotional moment, or providing unwavering support to her parents during their own challenges, SHAWNTAI always showed up. She was the reliable one, the steady one, the person you could count on no matter how dark things got. This is precisely why the phone call she would make that October evening was so significant. SHAWNTAI wasn't someone who asked for help easily. She was usually the one providing help, the one other people called when they were drowning in their own problems. For her to reach out and admit she was frightened meant something was seriously, dangerously wrong. But while SHAWNTAI was building her reputation as someone who could heal and comfort others during their worst moments, her husband Chantel was concealing secrets that most people in their community never suspected. What friends and neighbors didn't realize was that his past contained troubling warning signs that should have predicted the horror that was coming. But when Chantel returned from rehabilitation supposedly committed to his recovery and their future together, things didn't improve the way SHAWNTAI had hoped and prayed they would. Just days after walking through their front door, supposedly clean and committed to sobriety, Chantel did something that shattered every hope SHAWNTAI had been holding on to. SHAWNTAI owned a motorcycle. Not just any bike, Mike. This was something special to her, something she treasured. While she was at work saving lives at the cancer center, Chantel took her motorcycle without asking and went for a ride, drunk. Think about that for a second. The man had just spent weeks in rehabilitation learning about addiction, about making better choices, about rebuilding trust. His wife had waited for him, supported him, believed in his recovery, and within days of coming home, he steals her motorcycle and drives it while intoxicated. The betrayal cut deep. SHAWNTAI confronted him when she found out, and the fight was intense. Here she was, a woman who had stood by him through rehab, who had managed their entire life while he was getting treatment, and this was how he repaid that loyalty. But even then, even after this massive violation of trust, SHAWNTAI wasn't ready to give up on their marriage. She kept hoping things would turn around. She kept believing that love could fix what was broken. That hope lasted until October, when technology betrayed her husband in the worst possible way. Chantel's Apple Watch started lighting up with notifications. Messages were popping up on the screen, messages that weren't meant for SHAWNTAI to see. As she read those notifications, her entire world collapsed. Her husband was having an affair. These weren't innocent conversations with a friend. These were intimate messages that made it crystal clear. Chantel was sharing his life with another woman, while SHAWNTAI was working long shifts at the hospital, caring for cancer patients, believing in their future together. The emotional devastation was complete. This woman had forgiven his drinking, had supported him through rehab, had overlooked him stealing her motorcycle while drunk. She had given him chance after chance to prove he could change. And while she was being the loyal, supportive wife, he was betraying her with someone else. SHAWNTAI called her mother immediately. The conversation was raw and final. She told her mom about discovering the affair, about being done with trying to save a marriage to a man who clearly had zero respect for her. This wasn't a threat or an ultimatum. This was a woman who had reached her absolute breaking point. When her mother heard SHAWNTAI's voice that day, she knew this time was different. Her daughter wasn't asking for advice or looking for ways to work things out. She had made her decision and was moving forward with it. That evening, when Chantel walked through their front door, SHAWNTAI was waiting for him. She confronted him about the messages, about the affair, about the lies he had been telling while she was trying to save their marriage. The argument that followed was explosive, fueled by months of accumulated betrayal and this final, unforgivable deception. Chantel found himself completely cornered. His secret was exposed, his wife was leaving him, and there was no way to talk his way out of what he had done. The evidence was right there on his own watch, undeniable proof of his infidelity. By early evening, the argument had escalated to a level that genuinely frightened SHAWNTAI. This wasn't just raised voices or harsh words anymore. Something in Chantel's behavior, something in his tone, made her realize she was no longer safe in her own home. The man she had married, the man she had tried to help through addiction and rehabilitation, was becoming someone she didn't recognize. Someone dangerous. That's when SHAWNTAI made the phone call that started this story. The desperate call to her parents, asking them to come help her get out safely. Her parents heard the fear in their daughter's voice and immediately got in their car. They were probably thinking they'd arrive, help calm Chantel down, and take SHAWNTAI somewhere safe until things cooled off. A tense but manageable domestic situation. They had no idea they were driving toward a scene that would haunt them forever. When SHAWNTAI's parents pulled up to the house on Fulton Street, everything looked normal from the outside. Nothing suggested they were about to witness something unthinkable. But as soon as they approached the front door, they could hear the argument still raging inside. Voices were raised, tension was thick, and it was immediately obvious the situation hadn't cooled down during their drive over. They entered the house and found SHAWNTAI ready to leave. She had made her decision, she was getting out of this marriage, getting away from this man, and she wanted her parents there to help her do it safely. Her parents positioned themselves between SHAWNTAI and Chantel, trying to keep things calm long enough to get their daughter out of there. This wasn't about taking sides in a marital dispute. This was about making sure everyone stayed safe while she left. As they began moving toward the front door with SHAWNTAI, Chantel's behavior became increasingly erratic. Watching his wife actually leave, seeing her parents help her do it, seemed to trigger something dark inside him. SHAWNTAI was steps away from the front door. Steps away from safety. Steps away from starting the new life she had decided she wanted. That's when Chantel made the choice that transformed him from an angry husband into a killer. He grabbed a rifle that was kept in the house. Suddenly, what had been a tense domestic situation became a life-or-death emergency. SHAWNTAI's parents realized they weren't dealing with an upset man anymore. They were facing someone who was armed and clearly not thinking rationally. SHAWNTAI was still moving toward the door when Chantel raised the rifle. She was so close to freedom, so close to escaping this nightmare marriage. In that moment, she probably thought she was going to make it. Chantel pulled the trigger. The bullet struck SHAWNTAI in the back of the neck as she stepped through the doorway. The woman who had spent her career healing others, who had dedicated her life to bringing hope to people in their darkest moments, was shot down by the very person who had promised to love and protect her. SHAWNTAI collapsed near the threshold of her home, dying just feet from the freedom she had been trying to reach. Her parents watched in absolute horror as their daughter was executed right in front of them. The chaos that followed was beyond anything they could have prepared for. SHAWNTAI's father, realizing Chantel was still armed and still dangerous, tried to flee. In his desperation to escape what had become a war zone, he badly injured himself, breaking his leg as he scrambled to get away from the gunfire. But Chantel wasn't finished. With SHAWNTAI dying on the floor and her father trying to escape, Chantel turned the rifle toward both parents. The man who had just murdered his wife was now threatening to kill the very people who had come to help defuse the situation. SHAWNTAI's mother found herself staring down the barrel of a gun held by a man who had just proven he was capable of killing someone he claimed to love. The son-in-law she had known for years, the man she had welcomed into their family, was pointing a weapon at her and threatening to end her life too. Whether it was the realization of what he had done or some other calculation entirely, Chantel then made another devastating choice. He turned the rifle on himself and fired, shooting himself in the chest. The self-inflicted wound was serious but not fatal. He collapsed in the front yard, wounded but alive, while inside the house lay the woman whose only crime was wanting to escape a marriage that was destroying her. What do you think about parents who rush to help their children in dangerous situations? Should they have called police instead of going themselves? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you want to see how this case ends and what justice looked like for SHAWNTAI, make sure you hit that like button. Within minutes, the quiet residential block transformed into a crime scene. A neighbor who heard the gunshots came outside to investigate and found SHAWNTAI's mother in the street, frantically waving her arms and screaming for help.
Know that this happened, this is heartbreaking.
Samisha Johnson is one of many who can't understand how an argument cost a woman she knew her life.
I'm praying for both families, and it's just real sad.
Police flooded this area around 7 o'clock on Thursday after multiple 911 calls.
Gunshot. So what I did is kind of like walked up to the fence and looked down the street to see.
Theodore Carter says he's familiar with the home he saw officers surrounding. Daytona Beach police say it belongs to the suspect, SHAWNTAI ADKINS, and the victim, his wife, SHAWNTAI.
They seem like great people, like great couple, like maybe next door to your house, you know what I'm saying? You would never think that something like that would ever happen like that.
Investigators say when an argument broke out on Thursday, SHAWNTAI called her parents for help. Right after that, they say SHAWNTAI pulled out a rifle, shooting and killing her.
It's not worth it at all. I feel like they could have came to some type of probably a common ground.
They say SHAWNTAI then shot himself in the chest. He's still in the hospital. No details have been released about the argument. Regardless, neighbors tell me there's never a reason for things to escalate to the point they did.
You can't stay together, just go ahead and separate and go ahead. You go your way, I'll go mine.
By incredible timing, a Daytona Beach police officer was nearby and quickly responded to the scene. First responders arrived to find absolute devastation. SHAWNTAI lay dead near her front door, just steps from the freedom she had been trying to reach. SHAWNTAI was bleeding in the front yard from his self-inflicted wound. Her father was injured from his desperate escape attempt, and her mother was in complete shock from witnessing her daughter's murder. The house that should have been a home had become the site of an execution. Unlike most murder cases that drag on for years with complex investigations and lengthy manhunts, this case was essentially solved the moment police arrived. There was no mystery about who pulled the trigger, no question about what happened, and no doubt about the motive. SHAWNTAI was rushed to the hospital under police guard while doctors worked to save his life. Meanwhile, investigators built their case with evidence that was overwhelming in its clarity. The most powerful testimony came from SHAWNTAI's parents. Despite their trauma, despite having just watched their daughter die in front of them, they provided investigators with detailed accounts of exactly what they witnessed. Their statements became the foundation of what prosecutors knew would be an airtight case. Detectives recovered the Apple Watch messages that revealed SHAWNTAI's affair, documentation of the motive that drove him to murder. The timeline was perfectly clear: discovery of infidelity, confrontation, escalation, execution. Physical evidence supported every detail. The rifle was recovered, ballistics confirmed it was the murder weapon, and the positioning of evidence matched exactly what the eyewitnesses described. Even SHAWNTAI's own gunshot wound served as evidence, proving he was at the scene with the weapon. Once medically cleared, SHAWNTAI was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, plus 2 counts of aggravated assault for threatening SHAWNTAI's parents. He was held without bond while prosecutors prepared their case. The trial moved quickly because there was virtually nothing to contest. The evidence was so overwhelming that the proceedings lasted only 2 days. Prosecutors presented the digital evidence of the affair, played recordings of SHAWNTAI's final phone call to her parents, and put the eyewitnesses on the stand to describe what they saw. The defense had nothing to work with. Their client was caught at the scene, wounded by his own hand, with multiple witnesses to his crime. When the jury left to deliberate, court observers expected they might be out for hours. Instead, they returned in exactly 17 minutes with their verdict: guilty on all counts. 17 minutes. In less time than it takes to decide what to watch on Netflix. 12 jurors unanimously agreed that SHAWNTAI ADKINS was guilty of executing his wife in front of her parents. Under Florida law, first-degree murder carries a mandatory sentence of life in prison without parole. When SHAWNTAI returned for sentencing, the judge imposed that life sentence plus an additional 10 years for threatening SHAWNTAI's parents. State Attorney R.J. Larissa called it every parent's worst nightmare, emphasizing how SHAWNTAI had executed the victim in front of her parents and then threatened to do the same to them. Justice was served, but it couldn't bring back the woman whose only crime was wanting to escape a marriage that was killing her spirit. While Chantel Adkins began his life sentence in a Florida prison cell, the real work of honoring Shawntai's memory was happening in the community she had served. Online memorial pages filled with tributes from patients whose lives she had touched, colleagues who had worked alongside her, and strangers who were moved by her story. Hundreds of virtual candles were lit in her memory, each representing someone who wanted to ensure Shawntai would never be forgotten. Comments poured in from people sharing their own experiences with domestic violence. Many credited Shawntai's story with giving them courage to seek help or leave dangerous relationships before it was too late. Local domestic violence organizations began using her case as an example of how quickly situations can turn deadly, emphasizing the importance of safety planning and recognizing warning signs. Her death became a catalyst for conversations about supporting people in abusive relationships and the critical need for intervention resources. But most importantly, Shawntai is remembered not as a victim, but as the healer she always was. Her children will grow up knowing their mother dedicated her life to caring for others, that she brought light into dark places, and that she was genuinely loved by everyone who knew her. The cancer patients she cared for remember a nurse who made them feel seen during their most frightening moments. Her colleagues remember someone who could walk into a room full of worried family members and somehow make everyone feel a little bit better. Her parents remember a daughter who brought laughter and warmth to every family gathering. Today Chantel sits in prison where he will remain for the rest of his life, while Shawntai's family continues the difficult work of healing from an unimaginable loss. But her legacy, the lives she saved, the patients she comforted, the hope she shared, continues to make a difference in the world. Her story serves as a reminder that domestic violence doesn't discriminate. It can happen to anyone, in any neighborhood, in any family. The woman who could heal everyone else couldn't heal the man who was supposed to love her most. Shawntai's parents answered their daughter's desperate call for help because that's what loving parents do. They couldn't have known that rushing to save her would mean watching her die, but their presence in those final moments meant she didn't face her killer alone. She was surrounded by the people who loved her most when she needed them most. The next time someone you care about calls asking for help, remember Shawntai's story. Sometimes love isn't enough to protect us from the people closest to us, but it's always enough to ensure we don't face our darkest moments alone. Before we go, we want to know what one word describes how this story made you feel. Drop it in the comments below. And if this case has taught you anything about recognizing warning signs or supporting someone in a dangerous relationship, please share this video with someone who might need to see it. Make sure you're subscribed for more cases that remind us why family should be our safest place, not our greatest threat. Sometimes the most important thing we can do is simply listen when someone calls asking for help. Thanks for watching, and remember, Shawntai Adkins was a healer who deserved so much better than the hand she was dealt. Family should be a refuge, but even the closest ties can fracture. Stay alert, look out for one another, and reach out if you sense danger.